Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Timmy Treacle, also known as Horror Fan for Life, and today I'm doing my Throwback Thursday movie review. But for this one, I am doing an entire franchise for my Throwback Thursday movie review. Now, this is the franchise that you either love or hate. For me personally, I love this franchise. Not all the movies are perfect. Uh, and there are some likes and some dislikes about the movies, which I'll go through. But the franchise that I'm going to be reviewing today is the Twilight franchise. Now, right off the bat, I am a huge fan of vampire and werewolf movies, or in the case of Underworld, Lycan movies. Now, the vampires in this movie are a little bit different than what we're used to, but we'll get into that here in a second. The Twilight franchise was from 2008 to 2012. We got a new movie each year, consisting of 5 movies, the latter 2 being a two-parter. Now, this is a romantic drama fantasy series based on the books by Stephanie Meyer. Now, this movie was directed by several different people. The first film, you had Catherine Hardwicke. The second film was Chris Weitz. The third film was David Slade, and the fourth and fifth movie was by Bill Gordon. It was written by Melissa Rosenberg. Now, the budget for these movies, all 5, was $401 million. And at the box office, it made $3,346,000,000 for the 5 movies. So that just shows you how popular these movies were when they came out, and still popular today. The franchise stars Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, Taylor Lautner as your 3 main characters. Side characters we have here are played by Peter Facinelli, Elizabeth Reeser, Ashley Green, Kellen Lutz, Nikki Reed, Jackson Rathbone, and Mackenzie Foy. Now, with the 3 main leads, there's a love triangle between young Bella, who is a new student at Forks in Washington State. She has moved back with her dad while her mom and her boyfriend travel around the country while he's playing minor league baseball. And so, being the new kid, she already knows Jacob for having previously lived there with her parents. Of course, they are divorced. So she moves back, she's going to school, and immediately she's introduced to some of the classmates, which a few of them are a tad annoying, especially in the first movie. We have young Bella who meets Edward, who has a little distaste for her at the beginning, and we find out why later on in the movie, in the first one. But as the first movie goes on, we're introduced to all these characters, both vampires and one lone wolf, a few other stragglers here and there. But for the most part, this is Edward and Bella's introduction, and they actually start a relationship in this movie. The one thing I don't like about the vampires is they shine like diamonds. I'm not a fan of that because in most vampire movies, the sun is supposed to kill them. And I know they're trying to do something different, and I can appreciate that. But for me, for vampires and werewolves, just leave it as is, in my opinion. Because that's one thing I didn't like about the look of the vampires. Now, they're fast, they're strong. I did like that. I also like the look of the werewolves, too. The special effects in these movies are excellent. The cinematography, the score, it's just beautifully shot. So, in the first movie, we're introduced to these characters. But we're introduced to some other vampires as well. Most notably James, Victoria, and Laurent, if I'm pronouncing that one correctly. Uh, these three are creating somewhat of a problem for the Cullen clan as they're killing humans. And so basically the Cullens have to run them off. Of course, Bella and Edward have started a relationship, but she hasn't been turned into a vampire. So James, being the person who he is, can't get enough of her smell and is bound determined to kill her. And of course, towards the end of the movie, we get that scene where James gets torn apart, and Victoria vows to get revenge on Edward and Bella for doing that, as you will see later on in the other movies. And so the next movie is New Moon, where it's more focused on Jacob and Bella's story, with Edward being away. We do see visions of him throughout the second movie. And eventually, Bella has to choose, between Jacob and Edward. The one thing I always tease my sister about is, does Jacob ever wear a shirt? Because he's always shirtless. Don't get me wrong. If I had a body like that, I'd probably show it off too. But, and just so everyone's clear, I am on Team Edward. I would much prefer to be a vampire than a werewolf if I had a choice. So yeah, in the second story, they become real close friends. She finds out that he's actually a wolf, and the whole clan that she's been talking to, they're all wolves, of course. And towards the end of the movie, we see Bella save Edward from exposing himself to humans by stepping out into the sun. And this is when we're introduced to the Volturi, most notably Michael Sheen, Dakota Fanning, Jamie Bowen, and Cameron Bright, amongst others, play the Volturi. And they are the tops when it comes to vampires. If a group of vampires, a family, or even in this case, a trio of vampires causes problems, they step in and eliminate the problem because they don't want the humans to know that they are surrounded by vampires. The Volturi are pretty badass. They're really powerful. They each have their own specific power that is better than your average vampire. There's different classes of vampire as far as your powers go. When you're a newborn, you're the strongest out of everyone until you've made your first kill. With the Cullens, though, they don't live on human blood. They live on animal blood. They also have a treaty with the wolves not to go on their land, of course. Yeah. So towards the end of the second movie, New Moon, we see Edward being saved by Bella. Now in the third movie, Eclipse, which is my favorite in the franchise, we see a young man who is from Forks being bitten by Victoria, and she starts to build a group of vampires to take on the Cullens to exact revenge for her man's death from the first movie, James. And in doing so, there's a big battle towards the end of the movie. It also involves the wolves as well, which I thought was really cool because all those are newborns. The newborns can kick some ass, and if you don't watch out, they can kill you. And so they're taught how to fight against the newborns. Of course, towards the end of this fight, Jacob gets hurt. Half his body, his bones get broke, which is rough looking. But in this movie, though, Bella has promised the Volturi that she will be turned. They will be married. And then we lead into the part one of Breaking Dawn, where they get married, they graduate, they say goodbye. Bella does to her friends, and we also see them take off on their honeymoon. Bella ends up getting pregnant, and in fact actually starts to kill her until they realize she needs to start drinking blood because there is a half vampire, half human in her belly. And then the ending, we see Bella die. Edward's trying to save her by biting her, giving her the venom that she needs. And of course, when the movie ends, we see her eyes open, so we know what's expected. Breaking Dawn Part 2, which is my second favorite movie. We see Bella awake, she's healthy, but she's learned that Jacob has imprinted on her daughter, which she's not really happy with at first, but realizes that it's the right thing to do. And then so she learns how to feed without going after humans. But there's a problem with the Volturi again. They see that this child could be a threat, and so the Volturi want to come and basically kill the Coleman family. So they have to go around the country, around the world, to look for witnesses who will stand by them and let them know that their child doesn't pose a threat. And then there's a big battle at the end of the movie, which is freaking awesome. But we later find out that it was a vision by Alice that shows the Volturi that this is what's going to happen if you decide to go ahead and fight us. And the Cullens and the Wolves combine together to kick ass, which is awesome. And it's just one of the better fight scenes in any movie. I love it. Now, all these movies have their flaws, of course. The first movie, there's some characters in there of Bella's classmates that I didn't like. I can't remember the kid's name, but there's one in there that is holding up a worm and wants to show it to Bella, and he's just being really just obnoxious. Then there's another classmate that has a thing for Bella, but she's clearly not interested in him, and he keeps trying to ask her out and get with her, and it's just not going to happen, you know. Also, in the New Moon, I like to focus on Jacob and everything, but New Moon is my least favorite, or I should say, second least favorite in the franchise. It wasn't as good as, definitely not as good as Eclipse. It wasn't as good as the first movie, in my opinion. Now I know some others dislike the first movie the most, but we all have our opinions. But for me, New Moon was good, but it was okay. Then we get into Eclipse, which I gave a perfect score. I love that movie. Same with Breaking Dawn Part 2. I gave it a perfect score as well. But overall, though, I love this franchise. And with that, some of the wolves that are introduced are Sam, Quill, Embry, Paul, Jared, Brady, Leah, Seth, and Colin. So those are some other characters. The human characters we have are Charlie, who's Bella's father. You got Renee, who's the mother. You have Harry Clearwater, Billy Black, Tyler, Lauren, Mike, Jessica, and Angela, and Eric. Those are the classmates of Bella. Anna Kendrick in the franchise. I wish she had more of a role in this franchise. All actuality, I wish she would have fallen for one of the vampires or something, been more involved in the franchise. I think she definitely could have done that. But overall, though, this franchise is a lot of fun, in my opinion. And like I said, it's not perfect. I will go over the ratings for these movies. For the first movie, IMDb, it has a 5.2. It has a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is tied for the highest for any movie in this franchise, and a 91% on Google. I gave the first movie an 8 out of 10. The second movie, I gave an 8 out of 10. It has a 4.7 on IMDb, a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is the second lowest, and a 92% on Google. Of course, the third movie, I gave it a 10 out of 10. It has a 5 out of 10 on IMDb, a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 92% on Google. The fourth movie, Breaking Down Part 1, has a 4.9, a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 92% on Google. I gave it a 7 out of 10. And then the fifth and final film has a 5.5 on IMDb, a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 92% on Google, and I, of course, gave it a 10 out of 10. So overall, average grade probably for this movie is between an 8 and a 9, which is fine. The box office individually for each of these movies, $393 million for the first movie, $709 million for the second movie, $698 million for the third, $712 for the fourth, and $829 million for the fifth and final movie, for a total of $3,346 million worldwide. So yeah, whether you love or hate this franchise, it's undoubtedly one of my favorites, along with the Underworld franchise. But yeah, Twilight, I love the characters, especially the three main leads. Some of the side characters are really good as well, but some of the classmates were just freaking annoying. And overall, the stories for each one are good. But that third, the Breaking Down Part 1, that movie is just disturbing because how Bella looks there towards the latter part of the movie. She's all, you see her bones, and it just, it's hard for me to watch. That was only the second time that I'd seen Breaking Down Part 1 when I rewatched this franchise 2 weeks ago. And it still gives me the creeps. But, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Twilight franchise. So, in the comment section below, give me your thoughts and opinions on the franchise. Do you love it, like it, hate it? Do you think it's okay? You think it's overrated, underrated? Let me know, and let's have a great discussion about this franchise. Other than that, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you like this Throwback Thursday movie review, hit that like button. Also, if you have a suggestion for a Throwback Thursday movie review, leave it in the comment section below, and I will definitely do that for you. But thank you for watching, and check you later.